Besides sending the police, you might want to send an ambulance or a hearse.
Hello and welcome to Billy Ho Sports. This week it's an NFL show, DFS. Already week 6 of the season, and I'm having a pretty good year in DFS without one single paywall app. I don't pay for anybody's picks or all that stuff. I build my own. I'm a hand builder, so if I was a massive multi-entry player, I would absolutely probably pay for something so I could build lineups, optimizers and all that. But being a hand builder that I am, I don't need an optimizer because I'll build maybe a dozen lineups using 1 to 3 stacks and then mix matching players. So anyway, that along with 30 years of knowledge in fantasy football realm, me being a little bit on the old school side. And by the way, old school, you're old school when you refer to the song Rubber Band Man through the movie Stripes rather than the Avengers. Just saying. Anyway, I was thinking about that the other day for some reason. I guess I was probably watching the Avengers and the song came on, and it made me think of the mud wrestling thing when all the troops in stripes went out to the mud wrestling strip club and everything. But anyway, also all kinds of free info out there. So I'm going to show you some of that today. And before we get started, I wanted to cover the whole Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift thing. CNN says it's Traylor, Tayvis, or the football fans seem to like Swelce. Well, I instantly thought of Tayvis right off the bat, but I guess I'm no genius considering those dolts over at CNN came up with it too, or they're at least reporting it. But I'm totally convinced now that it's a push for publicity more than anything else. And like Swifty really even needs that. But Kelce, maybe he's going to ride the coattails because he's in Experion commercials and all that shit now. So good luck to him and her. They do make a cute couple, and they're both good at their jobs. But I think it's probably a little bit of good timing since they're in their third week of dating. And this weekend, lo and behold, her big blockbuster concert movie's premiering, and they've already sold $100 million in advance tickets. So, okay, y'all are tight. Anyway, so I'm going to stick with Tayvis because that's what I came up with. So they're both equally dorky. That kind of looks that way. So anyway, let's get into it. Subscribe, like, comment, share with a friend. Let's get started.
Football!
All righty. So this is a week 6 DFS preview. And I wanted to toss out some DraftKings plays. Obviously, that's where I do most of my damage. Stacks, sleepers, whatever. I'm going to flash across just a listing of some picks that I noticed offhand that are going to provide you either with value or pay up options, or just kind of the way we'll go. And we'll cover some stacks here in just a second. So what I do anyway is, first of all, I don't specifically set out to play the chalk in my stacks like QB stacks, but that is the first place. If I'm playing any kind of chalk, that's where I'm doing it. And I'm doing it again this week. And you can see you could go Jalen Hurts up top here, but at the Jets, I'm not saying he still can't get there, but he can. But you just, first things first, Tua and Tyreek every week. Just make that rhyme in your head. Tua, Tyreek every week. Go ahead and make your dummy lineups like this every week, especially when they're at home. And I know they're playing a more of a run heavy run funnel defense or whatever. But now that A-Chain is on IR, I think Tua can provide more upside. If you look at Tua the last couple of weeks, his attempts have gone down. Now they got blown out here, but he's still efficient as hell. 26 attempts and he still goes 304 touchdowns. Now you're not going to get this. You may luck box a rushing touchdown on like a bootleg keeper or something like that, or maybe the 1 yard scrum. But I still think he's going to be able to go because 30 attempts, he still hits 302. It's still pretty safe play with that's basically 22 DraftKings points. Not going to win you a GPP, but if he rolls up 2 more touchdowns along that or gets you 30, 40 yards rushing and a touchdown, he's going to hit value at 7,600. So I'm cool with that. Now the other one was Fields. That's Minnesota at Chicago. I think Chicago can likely win this game. Minnesota is going to lose a ton of time of possession and plays in general just by missing Jefferson alone. So Fields and Chicago will have more opportunities because I think they've suffered up until the last couple of weeks where Fields just hasn't had the ball enough when they were getting blown out 41-10 and 38-20. He did get 37 pass attempts, but they just weren't going anywhere. But he seemed to have figured it out with 4 and 4 the last couple of weeks, 32. So, but he's not running. I think he runs a little. At least he's going to get you the 57, but he's going to have one of those games where he rips off a couple of 50-yarders and a touchdown, and you're going to see 125 and 2 here, and then you're going to see 282 and 2 here, and this is going to be 40. So that's what I'm playing for. Those are two guys that I'm probably just going to play till they hit. Now with DJ Moore, them getting on a better plane of existence, you got a couple of options for stacking, and that's where one of your running back value plays is going to come in. But going back over to the Carolina-Miami real quick, like I said, run funnel with Carolina. But now that A-Chain's on IR, you can also run out Mostert at 6,400. He's going to be a very, very popular play. I wouldn't say it would be the worst idea in the world if you were going to double stack like this, and maybe you hope for Mostert to take a dump off pass to the house, and then your gravy train. And then all of a sudden you can look down here and you can see by my values, Dante Foreman is the free square this week at 4,400 because the other three Bears running backs have been ruled out. So you could just plug in Foreman here and you save you a ton of money already. And then you got Curtis Samuel down here, another free square basically at wide receiver. I played his over and it was like 32 yards. I mean, 7 targets, 6 for 65 and a touchdown. I mean, he's still a guy that can get you multiple touchdowns. It just depends. But 3,700, I mean, if you're going to give me, 12 to 15 points, as long as he doesn't ruin you, then you're saving your money where you need to be. And then, defenses are always variable as well. And actually, it's not the worst idea to play, maybe play the Bears D down here, just to plug in a $2,500 player. And then we still got 5,300 left. And we've already got our stud in one of them. So we saw Goff last week be pretty effective throwing even without his top receiver. So just keep that in mind. And when it comes to running backs, I think I will hover in this 7K range and just roll the dice that McCaffrey is not going to score 50. He'll only get 27 because they're on the road and they're at Cleveland. That's probably the toughest defense they've faced all year and toughest game situation too. I haven't checked the weather, but maybe we get some weather, some wind or something because he only got 15 last game in a blowout win. I believe Deshaun Watson's going to play. So as long as he doesn't get this 51, I don't think he will because that game was decently competitive and they just unleashed him. So hopefully, he's the only 9K running back in the whole board. So that's always a good thing. Now, the guys that I like in the 7K range, maybe Bijan again. I've heard people, where people are starting to get a little wishy-washy because they're like, okay, the volume's there and the dude looks really spectacular, one play a game. But where's it at? 12.8. I mean, that Houston, they should have, of course, Houston is probably, I don't know. I thought they weren't that good against the run. I thought they were better against the pass. But Atlanta is sort of what they are, is just a sloggy, low possessions, low time of possession, keep you from having the ball, this, that, and the other. So sometimes it's not going to work out, but he don't catch that TD pass. He's an absolute bust. Anytime like week 1, he was probably a bust. He's almost too expensive, but he does keep coming down. So maybe if he gets only maybe a 12-point game again, we'll see him under 7K. And I just, people are just still playing him because they want to be the ones that still be on him when everybody else is jumping off. But sooner or later, after you've lost 4 weeks in a row, your fantasy money. Like these weeks with 24 and 21 and even 20 probably didn't lose you your fantasy weeks, but these two did. So just with the thought of him being able to get 100 yards and then catch 4 or 5 passes, all he's looking for is a multiple touchdown game, and he's got what he needs to get. So keep that in mind. Etienne getting mad volume, 7,100 at home against Indy, the Gardner Minshew revenge game. I mean, the dude dropped 40 on him, and hopefully not that many people noticed it that much, being the over in the overseas game. I guess that was Germany. I can't remember if that was a London or a Germany game, but overseas, 9 a.m. Sunday. That's what it was. Jacobs, I think Jacobs and Kamara, I'll even dip into 68 because I think Kamara is going to be a really great play. And I think Jacobs, this could be the week he smashes. He's been really itching to smash the last couple of weeks with the volume 17, 17, 20, 5, 8, 3. He's catching three to 5 passes for 20 yards. That covers you on anything because he can rush for 125 yards and 3 touchdowns, and he's going to break the slate. So he is not somebody I'm going to miss. He's kind of like the running back Tariq. I'm going to keep playing him until I get the right matchup. So those guys, and then you can hover in, like I said, you got the Foremans, and then you got other guys like down here in the mid-range with Stevenson. Even on the other side, it's weird because you're like, well, Las Vegas and New England's look so bad, but sooner or later, they got blasted in these 2 games against New Orleans and Dallas. So sooner or later, they're going to be in a game where he can get more usage. And if you can get back up to the 19s, but he's just not catching any passes. That's his problem. He was doing 6 for 64 every game in garbage time, but they're getting so far behind, they're not bothering with it. So if they get behind again and they're within striking distance, maybe. So be careful with Stevenson. I'd play Jacobs over Stevenson all day. But and then you got guys like Ford and Pierce down here that are playable. DeMarcado is interesting because he looked pretty good in his opportunities. And I think you can run on the Rams a little bit, even though their defense, like I said early in the season, much better than people thought they were. Anyway, but 10 for 45 and a tug. I mean, that's, he's 4,900 for a reason, but you never know. Arizona, he could get all the work. He's actually listed behind Ingram. So keep an eye on that. Ingram's got a neck issue. So if that's, I guess there's a caveat there. But, guys like, I don't know if Mitchell will be back this week, but you can find some guys down here. Madison is very interesting. And Brian Robinson, like I said, there's limited opportunities there. But Madison, Chicago is one of the worst defenses in the league versus the run. And he's still getting, even though he didn't get it versus Kansas City, he was still getting some pretty good opportunities. As long as he don't fumble the damn ball. See, he's gone 3 straight games without a fumble, and that's probably gotten him out of the doghouse. So I'm going to say he's going to get closer to 15 to 20 touches this week, rather than the barely whatever crap he saw last week. This is one of the sites, Fantasy Football Database. Shout out to them, but it's fantasy football points allowed by position, and it just gives you the through week 5 of the regular season. So if you click on running backs and then go down here toward the bottom, you can see who's obviously Denver. They gave up 500 yards in that one game. Carolina run funnel, like I said, there's Chicago, number 3 toward the bottom. Now this is rushing and receiving. This is 31 catches for 331. So you can see how Carolina's getting run on, and Denver especially. They are getting run roughshod on, 821 yards in 5 games, 8 rushing touchdowns. So the Bears have given up 4 and 4. So they've still given up almost the same amount of touchdowns as Denver has. Or, I mean, not Denver, but Carolina. They're just splitting it evenly, and that's good. 31 receptions. That's almost the most receptions down here. If you're hovering around 30, giving up in 5 games, that's math-wise, 6 receptions per game to running backs. Pretty good. So Madison is a good pass-catching running back, and he does manage to get in the end zone. And obviously they're going to have to lean on him more because Justin Jefferson went on IR. So Zach Moss looking good. He could definitely run it back again. Mixon has got to get one done sooner or later, doesn't he? I mean, people, that's another guy. He's getting 25 carries for 81 yards. That's just terrible. One of these games, he's going to have this efficiency, and then he's going to score 2 touchdowns, and then you're going to have 25. And that's going to be pretty good for a $6,300 dude. So keep that in mind. Wide receiver, I'm paying up all day for, like I said already. Jefferson's out. I got Hill in the lineup. I think that with Achane out, you could probably still run Waddle if you wanted to double stack him, because I think now he might be able to bring along with the rushing attack from Achane, and they were giving him extra touches and whatnot. They weren't really throwing it enough. 30 times is not enough to carry 2 pass catchers. It's just enough to carry 1. I'm Tua Tyreek all day. You could play I mix in a little bit of Waddle, single stacked. And then you got guys like Amon-Ra, St. Brown is back. People might overlook that. But Tampa Bay, you could probably throw on them a little bit. All these guys, I'm paying up. Basically, I'm paying up for wide receiver. People are going to chase. I don't blame them. I really looked at them hard last week, and I just said they just seem a week away, but they were not a week away. He just hammer timed 19 targets for almost 200 yards. He was just open, like you said, he's just open all the time, fucking open all the time. So they threw him the ball all the time, vice versa. And then you got guys down here like Evans, Devontae. Keep a lookout. Ridley at home versus Indy, I think feels like a good game. If you remember going back, this is their second meetup. He went 8 for 101 and a touchdown in his debut game. He's getting it done. As long as he gets 8 to 12 targets, he's getting it done. So hopefully with Gardner Minshew in there, they can get into a little bit of a shootout kind of thing. They were chasing points against Buffalo and then beat them in the end. So, but they won 23-7. He's not going to get nothing there. Atlanta will suck the life out of you. Houston's not much better. They got blown out by Houston. He should have had a better week there. But anyway, he really went through some troubles, but he's a new guy on a new team. And oh, by the way, he was out for a year and a half. You got guys like Olave, Ayuk, bounce backs, Debo's. It's hard to say down here, but I'm definitely paying up. But then you also have to pay up. You have to get up to get down. So, guys down here, like this is in a dome. So, right, Shaheed is a guy I'd play. I already mentioned Samuel. This Wilson fella, he looked like a thing for half a second when he got 7 for 7, but that ain't happening since. Peoples-Jones. There's plenty of guys down here. Just be on the lookout. This is another thing I like, this advanced daily fantasy fuel.com. Shout out to them as well. They have just a generic projections. They actually have a little free tool here where you can actually optimize a lineup, and it does actually let you stack, build and stacking rules. So you can, like if I was stacking Miami, then it doesn't give you a lot of options. You can check off to exclude the opponent defense, set your salaries, and then your flex positions. And then you got max players per team. So, I can say max of 3 there, go back, and just for shits and giggles, we'll optimize, see what it does. So it's got Tua and Tyreek. So we got Christian Kirk at 5.4. That's a good price for him. Pitts is going to land in all the optimals. Just be careful with that. But now that he's down to 3,500, I'll segue over into the one Achilles heel of my DFS this season has been tight end. He went 7 for 87 versus Houston, but Houston's a different kind of defense. They might be tight end funnel. So look at I can't remember if Ingram's in or out for Jacksonville. But anyway, no, they're not playing Jacksonville. My apologies. Okay, so it's New Orleans at Houston. So they're two dome teams playing against each other. New Orleans is really a stout defense, but Houston, if they are, it would be unfortunate that they've got 19 tight ends and none of them are really any good. You can't honestly play Taysom Hill as a tight end in a tight end funnel team. He's the guy that gets you goal line attempts and you hope for 2 touchdowns. So you can't play him. Um, Now, then you got this is probably your guy here is Juwan Johnson. Won't participate in Thursday's practice. Missed week 4, it appears, against New England. So he would be the guy, I guess, Juwan Johnson. But if he's out, I guess the island of Foster Moreau. And then you got old ass Jimmy Graham cracker. So cracker. Uh, it's hard to say. Like I said, I've really been bad at tight end this year, but I try not to pay up unless it's like a good like I had some Kittle last week, but they weren't in the right lineups. Sometimes when you pay up for tight end and you get those guys, you sacrifice in other places, and then you get off of guys that you were on, and they're not in the same lineups, and you got instead of 3 lineups with 175 points, you got 5 lineups with 175 because you got a couple of Kittles in there. But there's Ingram. He's another guy to think about. But I kind of just start at 4K and like start looking down. Dalton Schultz is starting to really come on. Another 7 target game and a touchdown. So pretty safe floor there. Good cash type guy. Ertz is another good cash type guy. Off week last week versus Cincinnati, but he seems to be getting targets. So, and there's Pitts, like I said, 3,500, and that is actually up 200 from last week. He went up because he had 11 targets. So, who knew? Anyway, that's kind of what sums it up for me here. I don't want to keep you too long. So I appreciate you watching. Share with a friend if you like the video. I don't put out many NFL DFS videos, but when I have the chance to do so, because there's just so much content out there, it's hard for this content to get noticed. So if you do notice it and you do like it, share the shit out of it. Thanks for watching.